Hey there, this is Adam Wins, and this is Bo. We are here with the Freemanbot, Freedom Mastermind. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are glad you joined us today. We have some new members joining us. Got some emails from the new members. We've got some old members who are joining back. We have some very eager either former members or members of Freemanbot that are very interested about the new event that we're going to be doing, the trust event. So before we get into that, I wanted to go over a few different things. Bo, are you there? You turned it off? Okay, thanks.
I did, yeah.
Okay, good.
My apologies.
One of those things that we need to go over is this statement right here, okay? And then I'm going to explain to you guys why it's so important. So we have breaking. Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Indiana are the first four states planning to try to ban property taxes, right? Because in theory, that great governor of Florida, what's his name?
DeSantis.
Pompous. Yeah, DeSantis. DeSantis. I thought his name was Pompous. I don't know why, but DeSantis. Yeah, he's so smart in this and says, well, when you buy a car, you don't keep paying taxes on it every year. When you buy school supplies, you don't keep paying taxes on them every year. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the most giant trap you've ever seen in the history of property confiscation, okay? So the whole plan is that most average, everyday, regular Joes, they got their property held by their person, right, Bo? And then the TV has taught them to create a will. Everybody has a will. Dun dun. Were you named in the will or weren't you named in the will, right? Like, oh, they have these big TV episodes of the five people sitting at the table and this sister or that daughter or that person got excluded from the will, and it shows you everybody has to have a will. Well, guess what, morons? What's going to happen then is there's going to be a transfer of property rights, okay? So do you think they're just going to give it all up and say, hey, guys, you don't need to pay us those millions and billions and trillions of dollars we've been taking? We were wrong. We really don't want your money. They're just going to change it to a transfer tax. Okay. So what that means, and this, why is this so important as we're scheduling this trust event and why we're doing this trust work, is because if your property is in a trust, Bo, what happens?
The trust protects it.
Yeah, Bo, but what happens to the property when it's in a trust, when you die? So let's say you're the trustee and you die.
Yeah, it stays in the trust.
It stays in the trust. Trust name owns it. And it just, a new trustee pops in. As you pop out, a new trustee pops in. Your successor trustee, your wife, your kids, your neighbor, whoever you assign, which is
the successor
the way
trustee.
It's supposed to be. Now, if you have a will, what has to happen? The first thing that happens is you have to go to the lawyer and you have to ask for a reading of the will. Or maybe they're just like, hey, don't worry about that. We'll meet you in probate court, because that lawyer is going to get paid. The probate judges are going to get paid, and they want to bring you into probate, right?
Yep.
And right now, when they transfer the property, so let's say, hey, you guys got to sell it. You got to divide it up and sell it. Okay, great. They're going to try to get you for a capital gains tax or some kind of tax, right? Depending on how it's held and how different things are. Maybe not federally. They won't get you on the capital gains tax because technically there's no death tax. But they're going to look to tax you. So let's say one brother wants to keep it. The other, brothers and sisters don't want to. Well, there's going to be some commerce that takes place. And I promise you it's not going to be in your best interest. So with Florida, Texas, Ohio, and Indiana moving for no property taxes, and then the rest of the world will say, oh, they have a great idea. They're they're not acting in your best interest. But again, it's Caesar, right? So you're not supposed to expect Caesar to ever act in your best interest. That's your job, right?
Yep.
That's your job as, let's say, Bo, you being the father of the family, that's your job. Okay. Now, if you're a single mother and you have kids, it's your job. Get your property out of your personal name, get it into a trust. But what about getting a mortgage? What about getting a mortgage? Okay. So, there are certain things. We're going to go into this deep, probably deeper in the trust event, not too deep because we've got a full schedule going on. But there's a lot of things that if you're not prepared, you're going to lose out on. So I just want everybody to be aware. If you want to go and have an attorney do this, this is by a group. It's an attorney group. And generally speaking, this is about what it'll cost you. And that's just to set up one trust that you don't know how to run. It's from the Brilliant Law Firm at brilliantlawfirm.com. So their professional trustee fees around $7,500, attorney fees around $5,000, the family trustee compensation $2,500, and then another $1,500 for accounting or whatnot. Okay, so you're looking at what, 15 grand there or more. And that's just for one trust, right? So the thing is, Bo, would we ever want our vehicle in the same trust as our house?
No.
No. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So you need more than one trust. And this is just what Brilliant Law Firm is going to charge you to create one trust. Chances are it's going to be the wrong kind of trust. And chances are it's not really going to protect you as much as you may think it does. And in some cases, it might not protect you at all. Okay. So this is where you have the duty to become your own fiduciary, right? You have to learn this.
Not to mention, if you have a law firm do this for you, there's consistent rent, like fees for them to be the custodian of that trust.
Yeah, to be the trustee, they have annual trustee fees. Right. If you need any changes, if you need to change beneficiaries, why? We teach you how to do all that at this trust event. Right. We give you all the documents to do it yourself, and we're going to set you up with a trust by the time you leave. Okay, so if you think it's too much, you don't have anything to protect. Okay, right. You don't need one if it's too much, because this is just a little bit of what it's saving. But not to mention, what is it going to save your family? What can it save you right now from the banks, from all sorts of creditors, from all sorts of different things? This is about wealth preservation. It's not for everybody, right? There is a fee involved. It's not cheap by any means. I'm not a cheap guy. I'm not giving you cheap information here. One alternative we have, if any of you guys want to send an email who are showing up, okay, I'm more than happy to have you bring some of your scrap gold that we can weigh up. If you don't have actual cash, or you've been holding a bunch of old gold chains or rings or whatever it is, we're absolutely believe that is God's money, and you can bring some of that gold, silver, as long as it's over the price of admission. There's no problem there. So there's a huge discount as well for those mastermind members. The mastermind members have, I think, a huge discount to where, it's more than the actual cost of the mastermind, the discount that they're getting. And mind you, we've reserved some seats for mastermind members, but we're only going to be selling 10 seats to the general public. Okay. We're not looking to have a big event by any means. We want to have a very small structured class for everyone involved. If you're having a cash flow problem right now, find your scrap gold. If you got jewelry in the drawer that's not doing you any good, put it to good work, put it to good use, as opposed to just sitting on the shelf doing nothing. Okay. So if you don't have the cash, no problem. You got some old scrap gold, silver, you got no excuse. Okay. If you don't have any, ask your family, ask your friends, send one representative from your family to learn this and be the main trustee, and then go teach everybody at home. So it's going to be on the 14th. Let me add it to this. I've got some documents there. It's going to be It's going to be on the 14th to the 16th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And what I have to say about that is it is the perfect timing, because what comes right after that, Bo?
It's the 13th. No, I'm sorry. I had it wrong. You're right. It's the 14th to the 16th. Yep. What happens right after that? Something that we all can be thankful for.
Yeah, Thanksgiving. And what are you all supposed to be talking about Thanksgiving? You know, Kim Kardashian's ass implants? No. You're supposed to be talking about things like this, trust work. Okay. You're not supposed to be talking about some transgender bullshit they're telling you to talk about, or who just got the Nobel Peace Prize for doing shit that's been planned for 20 years. Okay. None of this stuff we're not supposed to be talking about. First and foremost, you all got to get yourself right. Okay. And this is trust God, trust I am, trust whoever you want. This is about setting up the God trust. It's about setting up the business trust, how to do everything. We're going to be going through about 33 chapters. Whoa, 33. That just happened to be the number of chapters that came out in my new book. And we're going to be, hopefully everybody attending is going to be getting a copy. I can't promise. It's while supplies last. We're seeing how many Amazon can stock up for us. It's around a 200-page book. And it's trust God, right? Trust I am. That's who we work for. And that's what this whole trust is about. And it says in the title, you were born with nothing. You will die with nothing. While you are here, God wants you to manage everything. And that's the whole thing about this, is that you've been put here for a specific destiny to manage these things. And you say, well, Adam, I don't know how to manage them. You're right. You probably don't. And that's what we've been finding, that most people, we give you the trust information, we give you the trust documents, but is that enough, Bo?
No, it's not.
Look at who we've been talking to, right? What about MCO guy? What about all these other people? Hey, we got it in trust. And they think they have this license to go out and just do whatever the frick they want. And that is not what a trust is designed for. That is not what even getting your national status, or let's even say your native status is for, right? None of that is for going out so you have a license to harm others or do dumb shit. It's not some kind of get out of free jail card. It's a very big responsibility, right? So I want to go into that a little bit, okay? Because we've done a lot of trust teaching here, but we haven't done it in a way that some people like, right? Which is just like teaching. So we're going to do a little bit of that. That's what the weekend is going to be about. Okay. So the weekend is going to be 3 days. The first day is going to be Divine Steward training. Okay. It's a 16 hours over 2 days. And I apologize if you guys don't like to hear my voice and don't like my teaching, but that's what it's going to be. 8 hours a day for 2 days straight. And on the third day, what are we doing, Bo?
We have notaries on site.
So all your trust documents are going to be prepared for you. You're going to be leaving with a trust in hand. Okay. You're going to have all your documents ready to roll, ready to rumble. The only thing we're going to ask everybody that signs up, that they get themselves a mailbox from Traveling Mailbox. So once you sign up and become a member, we're going to ask you to go get a mailbox. This is going to be a mailbox that you're not going to.
This is a very important piece of information. So if you're listening or you're watching later, take this.
It's a private mailbox number that you're going to want to keep. It's going to cost you like $15 a month. That's just trust business. Trust pays for it. Don't worry about it. But this is, an amazing weekend where you can go from a very beginner to God's elite trustee in one weekend, where you could actually be, let's say, an agent for God and get it all done. So chapters 1 through 16, we're going to do in 8 hours. Okay. I hope we're going to get there. There may be a second class that we have to do later on, which is an advanced workshop. And I'm going to get into as much as I can on this class to get you guys where you need to go. Okay. So for the first half hour, it's going to be a welcome. We're going to go through, a little bit about trust basics. I'm going to go through in chapter 1, advanced trust concepts from the top down, so you can get an understanding of trust relationships, trust structures and hierarchies, how they work, what a master trust is, and holding trusts, for example, because there's not just one kind of trust. We're going to get into divine operations. So advanced trust concepts, sophisticated administrative techniques, divine trust principles. And the third chapter, we're going to get into the web of power, which is how you do your trust stacking and your trust web to have the ultimate trust protections for, guess who? For you and your family. Who designed Genesis there, Bo? Who created that?
God.
Creator. Right.
Yep.
The I am creator.
That's correct.
Created it.
Yep.
And why did he create it? He created it for you. Okay. So stop saying you're not worthy. He didn't create it so Caesar can use everything against you. He created it for you. And we're going to teach you exactly how to, optimize that.
And he's given us all of the principles throughout his trust indenture.
Yep.
To operate in that kind of kingdom. And what is that kind of kingdom? If we are under a quote unquote rulership of Rome, we can live parallel with that by not being directly under it, but recognizing that we are that it's still an entity that we have to live with.
You have to live with. You can't.
That's right.
You like. You can't just say I'm tax exempt. You have to show them I'm tax exempt. You just don't want them to say that you did something wrong. They have to show you. Right. The same things go for them, go for you. You got to be a good trustee. Okay. You can't go around saying I'm tax exempt. I don't have to pay shit. I don't have to license my cars. I don't have to do. No, you're a fool. You're going to get yourself in trouble.
It reminds me of that.
Protecting your wealth, not losing it.
Exactly.
That's what a trust for.
It reminds me of, there's an Office episode where the main guy, he comes out of his office and he just whips open the door and he says, "I declare bankruptcy." And the one guy goes, "I don't think it works like that."
Not exactly. Yeah. To do that, you have to file a federal form if you really want to go into bankruptcy. Right. You can bankrupt a company and say the company is bankrupt and just close it. Yeah. But to actually declare and file bankruptcy, it's a filing that is something that is theirs. It's Roman. So you have to give Roman what's his. Okay. So we're going to go into, commercial trust operations and what are some of your entrepreneurial and stewardship strategies that apply. Can you just open a trust and not do shit? No, you have to do things with it. That's what it's there for. God put you on this planet to be like I am. To be like God, to create, right? You got to be in a constant state of entrepreneurship and stewardship. And we're going to go over those strategies. Okay. We're also going to go over some ancient wisdom of the Sesta QV trust. Okay. Now, is this some miraculous trust that is going to just give you everything? Nope. Okay. I'm going to explain deeper on how the Sesta QV trust works in relationship with your other trusts. Okay. You're probably not going to like what I have to say because it might defeat some of your hopium. And your hopium that you guys are all, high on is that there's this $1 billion fund for you and you don't have to do anything. And yeah, there is. It's the St. Germain fund that God gave you, but you have to be a good steward of God first. It's not a Caesar fund. Caesar ain't never going to give you nothing to help you out unless you make some deal with the devil that ain't going to be good. Yep. Okay. So that's not what this is about. Just so we're clear on that, I'll go into the Sesta QV trust a little bit in how it relates, but I'm not going to deep into the nonsense fantasy that someone else created something for you. And yes, you technically are a beneficiary of it, but it's not in the way that you all think. Now, can you work inside and outside of it? You sure can. And you have to work it to your advantage. But beyond that, we're going to go into sacred trust operations, and we're going to talk about the creative control where you're the master of your domain. Okay. Creative control, trust principles, where your dominion is really through your divine stewardship. Okay. You need to master that of what you can control, right? You can't master what the devil's in the details, right? And studying all that and mastering what the devil controls, there's no point in it. You need to master on what you control, which is your divine trust, which is what God gave you in Genesis. And it's your family trust. Okay. So it's your ecclesiastical God-given right to have your divine trust. And we're going to go into that and the foundations of it. Okay. There's 10 golden slides that we're going to have for you to review. The sacred trust concepts of the divine trust, the spiritual dimensions of trust management, right? And the divine authority in this financial stewardship, because it all comes hand in hand. So if you're not prepared, you know, how are you going to get the mooring of the divine, right? If you don't have a bank account and I'm like, hey man, I want to send your trust $1 million. Well, if you don't have a bank account that I can send it to, how am I going to send it there? With ESP? Sure, you got it. There you go. But it ain't in your account. Okay. So you gotta be ready to go with these types of things. And we're going to talk about the express trust, right? Because the trust gets created when you create it. Now, it's not necessarily when you express it. Okay. And a lot of people have a problem with this. Well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. Listen, you may have created a trust. When did you find God? 6 years old, 7 years old? That may be when you first created your first trust. Now, then you have to say, oh, I didn't know I was supposed to express that trust and write it down. So then you go and you write it down. And then we have a fundamental structure in how we do that. So we're going to go through that structure. We're going to go through the paperwork. You know, we're going to have a nice breaks in between. I think we got like 2 breaks. We got an hour for lunch on each day. Going to have a little session on liberty and law. We're going to have another session on security and dominion, which is something about your consciousness. So we're going to go a little bit in consciousness and trust structures, because it does take you a little bit of a mind switch to get into it's hard for most people to start all of a sudden working in trust when they've been working in LLCs and companies. And even in my presentation, I'm going to give you examples of companies, like company structure. And then the purpose is because I want you to switch that to trust, because there's not really much different other than it's God's company. It's God's trust, right? The whole thing is you have to give up everything and follow me, right? Give up everything and follow me is what Christ says. And that really, I mean, couldn't be more true than in this trust structure. So once you realize that it's not yours, but you're the trustee of it, that you have the ultimate responsibility of it, things start to really change. So we're going to get into that, let's say, quantum leap forward in your consciousness and the trust structures. Now we're also going to go through secured party mastery. So how you work liens and creditors and how you really position the trusts in an advanced way. And then surety training. So a little bit about asset protection, how you can create, let's say, structured life insurance policies, different things, private placement life insurance. Okay. I'm obviously, we're not going to have, so this is from 4:45 to 6. I could probably speak for 2 hours alone on how to do a private placement life insurance policy. Okay. So one of the benefits is we're giving everyone that buys. So if you're not a member of the mastermind, you're going to get the trust workshop at a very discounted price. If you are not a member of the mastermind, you're going to get the mastermind for free. And the reason is it's going to be included is because we need you here and now asking the questions that we're not going to have time to go over in 16 hours, right? We got 16 hours, maybe a little bit on the third day, but I'm going to be going around table to table, person to person, and really just trying to spend a little bit of hot seat one-on-one time with everybody, making sure they got the basics understood. Okay. So this is where we can get into some more advanced principles here. And that's what, you know, when I started this, well, I didn't start the mastermind. Obviously David Straight started the mastermind. And I have to give a big thanks to David because he started us in the direction. He wasn't the one that started me in the direction of trust, but a lot of you got started in the direction of trust from him. And that's kind of where he left off. And we're picking up where he left off in the direction of trust and how to be really good trustees, because it's so important. And, you know, I want to just be able to give as much as I can to everybody. This was originally David's Straight Mastermind, and with his passing, we changed form a little bit into what I could do best with y'all, and which is trust. So this is our deep dive. I apologize if it hasn't been as structured as it could have been. The weekend is going to be the structure. After the weekend, you're going to come back and really have a good understanding. And I hope you have tons of questions to ask, because if you're making moves and you're not asking questions, that's not going to be good. One other thing I'm going to be doing is creating a new bot on Freemanbot that's going to be only trained on trust. So you can go there and you can just ask all the trust questions you want in how to do this, how to do that. And it's going to be fully educated on that and be able to assist you all the way, along. And that's going to be for all mastermind members and for everybody attending the trust events. So you're going to get my book, which is going to be quite amazing because it's going to go in detail into the slides with a lot of my teaching in written form. Like I said, it's going to be about 200 pages. You're going to, really get an understanding of what it is to be a trustee, what it is to have a trust, and what it's going to do for you. Okay. So we're going to conclude. We're going to start off about 8 a.m. Okay. We're going to conclude by around 6:15. So y'all can get off to dinner. We are giving away one dinner where you can go and, have dinner with me, and, we will share some nice meal and go into things a little bit deeper. We may open that up to everybody, but one person is going to win that. And we're going to, take care of their dinner and have a little one-on-one time. So, that's going to be for one special guest, which we can't wait for y'all to be there. Second day, 8 more hours. We're going into the divine activation. So it's going to be the implement phase. Okay. The launch phase. It's going to be a recap of day 1. Then we're going to go into the trust command center. Okay. This is your administrative mastery, which is what most y'all forget. You create some trust documents and you don't know what the hell to do with them. What am I supposed to do with these documents? So you're going to get trust admin, documentation and command center operations, how to be the trustee and how to have trustee excellence. Okay. Then you're going to get in a little bit about business operations and your charitable operations inside of the trust. So we're going to go into that quite a bit. And then we're going to go into the documentation power. Okay. Managing the trust, schedules, minutes, record keeping, what you need to do there. And then we're going to go into the core trust fundamentals after we have a little break. Okay. So those fundamentals are going to be the express trust, the structuring components. And hopefully you guys are going to find this really interesting, because if you don't know much about trust, which I'm finding nobody does, right? And I'm also not getting the right questions here, because I can't just I can speak forever about it, but I really need to know what everybody's, where their weak points are so we can help strengthen those. So, again, we're going to really have a practical application to this mastery. Okay. And, we're going to go into the pitfalls to avoid destruction, because we've seen the destruction. But what happened to this guy? I said, man, this guy's really ungrateful. Bo brought me some guy who had a trust. I didn't start the trust for him. I didn't educate him in the trust. He's not a member of the mastermind, but Bo said, hey, can you help this guy? So I start to help him a little. I'm like, man, this guy's really ungrateful. What happened to him, Bo? And what happened to him, Bo?
He got arrested.
He got arrested. Why? Because he didn't know what he was doing. He thought a trust was like some kind of golden shield of invisibility that he can go out into the world and break Caesar's law all over the place, and it was going to protect him. And that is not what a trust is for. A trust is so you can work together with Caesar's law above Caesar's law because you're working in the law of the air, but it doesn't mean you're going to go around and disrespect Caesar. And this guy not only disrespected Caesar, he did things that made my head spin and then couldn't wonder why he had problems. So we have trust pitfalls as a whole chapter, okay? The legal considerations before you effectively manage a trust, avoiding the common mistakes, and protection from these pitfalls, because there's many that people don't realize. They just open it up. So yes.
Well, and there's so much misinformation out there too.
Yep.
And with what little teaching there has been in this area,
yep.
all of the people trying to do the best they can, let's give them that. They're trying to do the best they can with what little knowledge that they have. What people have been doing is collecting a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and creating their own form of what they feel is right, what they think is right, while being on the combat/attack mode because they've heard somebody say that they could benefit financially in that area.
Guys, I have to say a lot of things, okay? That while I love David, I love Ron, I love all these people that have come into our lives, and we've gotten a little glimpse of the truth. But if you haven't asked the right questions and where to apply these things, and there's a basis of truth in everything that everybody said, even about driving with no plates. Again, it's all in the execution, okay? Which most of you haven't invested in your own education or the time necessary to do those. So yes, the event will be Friday, November 14th, starting at 8 a.m. in Minneapolis. Okay, so we're going to go Friday morning, Saturday morning. We're going to end it on Sunday evening. Okay, and Sunday is where we're going to work on your trust documents to make sure that you're okay on anything. Where I'm going to be asking questions or answering questions one-on-one, going over your paperwork. If you have some question, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? What other trust do I need to duplicate and create for my vehicle or for my property or for some business entities? And how do I structure that? So does the trust own the business entity? In a lot of cases, the answer is yes. Okay. So, we need to really get clear on it. Again, every answer I'm going to give you is not going to be, let's say, the right answer for you. It's not going to be incorrect, but there's no wrong answer when you're doing these things other than not to try to learn as much as you can, and get yourself into trouble. That's the whole thing. So we're going to talk about the trustee positions, the positions of power, the legal foundations, why it's so important, your strategic positioning, and how you approach others in that strategic positioning. Okay. Then we're going to talk about the advanced web structure. Okay. This is called trust stacking. I call it trust stacking. But it's where you set up a web of trust where you're assigning different contractual relationships from trust to trust. Okay. And this is where things really start to get interesting. Okay. Chapter 28, which is like we're ending up today. This is from 245 to 445. It's again just going really deep into these trust structures and how we do that. We're going to have UCC mastery. Okay. So why the UCC ones are important for some entities that you're going to set up for leverage, and how you actually use those UCCs for your benefit, not just unilaterally use them, not use them against others, definitely not use them against judges, but trust the trust on how you can operate within their system that benefits the trust, right? It benefits your family, that benefits ultimately your family's family. And that's what having a good trust, that's what being a good steward of God says. What does they say about, what does the scripture say about your family's family, Bo?
Well, it says that we are to create an inheritance for our children's children. And this is how we do it, by teaching the way God instructed his people throughout millennia. He basically declared, this is the information I've given to you.
Are you going to do it this way? Are you going to create inheritance for your children's children when there's no property tax on an annual basis, but there will be a fee at transfer? And if your family can't afford the fee, they're going to confiscate your property and they're going to sell it at whatever price they want and give whatever's remainder over to your family if there's anything there.
That's right. So I had an interesting conversation with both Adam and David about almost this exact thing and Ron Gibson. But I asked as many questions as I could to facilitate the direction that I wanted to go with the land that my property sits on. And I was moving in the direction, and to be on some levels I still am, but I was moving on the direction of land patents. However, I want that patent to be held in a trust, and the trust will be the most important document. But here is the thing that I learned is that you could do it one way. All right. I'm not going to name names right now, except for yours in a second, but you could do it one way and then fight tooth and nail, and then teach your children how to fight tooth and nail to hold on to something so tightly that you don't want to lose it. And then something Adam taught me, he said, Bo, God called you to be creative. You're the creator. So go and create the wealth. If they want to charge you something, guess what? God gave you the ability to go and create that wealth in order to take care of that until something changes. And you know what?
You want to spend a year of your life fighting for something that you could have bought in a year.
Exactly. And my time is valuable. In that time I could have spent in front of a judge or in front of, whoever fighting. I could have went out and created that somehow by bringing that wealth in, and then spending 15 seconds to click a button and say, fine, I don't like this, but here, take my $3,000 this month for property taxes, whatever it is.
And Bo, this is the first time, you being a contractor, this is the first time ever in American history where it's cheaper to buy a new house than it is to buy someone's used house. First time ever. So, there's, again, I've always been about property. And really, because it's not ours, it's God's property. We don't.
What's interesting about all the developments that are going up that most people don't know, but people like me, they have the in on it. All these developments, the land is set up in its own kind of trust. And it's all underneath an umbrella. Yeah. And what is that umbrella? That you have to pay dues for.
Right. So what do you really own? Nothing.
You don't
really own the physical house.
You can't choose the color of your house. You can't choose the size of your dog. You can't choose the times you want to stay awake at night or go to or wake up, because that's all done in that community that you're now living in, one step closer to that type of structural system that they want us to get us to. So just watch out.
Again, the purpose of everything here is to come to the ultimate conclusion of your divine destiny, which is the final revelation that is going to transform you into this, God commissioned me to be this trustee for all of this stuff, that it's not mine, it's all God's. That's what I hope everybody comes to the conclusion of by the end of the 2 days, if you already don't have it. Okay. But the reason you need to be there is because there's always this presence thing that we can just get on a deeper level when we're all connected. It's even some of my spiritual friends that I have, some of my spiritual guides that I read books on, or that I listen to for guidance. Being there in person is always such a, added benefit. So, it's something that I'd love for you to all to attend. We don't have enough room for a big crowd. This isn't something that, we want 100 people to show up for. This is a very advanced, it's a very exclusive thing. It's something I hold very near and dear to my heart, that God has put on me, that is moored me with. And I'm not about to just give it to anybody. So realize that this is for a very small group of people. I'm going to be sending out the
I can vouch what he says for that. He keeps the people that he educates this to very tight, because
and that's why we're only going to have the questions and answers in the mastermind, just because every time that I do this or I teach somebody one-on-one, my one-on-ones are $20,000 for, a trust setup. Why? Because I know that one-on-one is going to take me a year or two of phone calls daily, weekly, monthly. And what we're doing is we're scheduling that into here. So if you need to come online and ask your question, you'll be able to do that. You can even do that now if you just send a request in the email, info@Freemanbot, or if you put it into the comments section, we can always bring you on camera to ask some questions there. We're not going to be sharing the trust teachings outside of the circle, so they're not.
You don't have to come in on camera, but now you have the ability to do so after the event, only for those that participate in the event.
Yeah, just if it's necessary and you need something more one-on-one, and you think like us having this conversation here would be helpful to you. Okay?
But to protect those that want to keep their identities separate somehow for some reason, you know, we just want to honor that. So don't worry about it. You could still send in your questions via info@freemanbot.com or even comment in the comment section.
So just to give you a little bit of taste of what we're going to be doing there is just going over the essence of trust. Okay. And what is a trust? It is a firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, or strength of someone or something. And that's absolutely paramount to making sure that you have that, or you are that in the trustee. So not everybody is going to pick themselves to be a trustee, right? Some people are going to have someone else's trustees. They may have a group of trustees. They may appoint other trustees. We just don't know. So in a legal context, we have the grantor, right? So the grantor must have an unwavering belief in the trustee's integrity or competence. So that's why a lot of times we have, let's say, God is the grantor, or we acting in that position are the grantor. And then we also take the position of trustee, because we have to be most trustworthy to ourselves in that position. So, but it's not the only position. So we'll get into that and how we can further, set things up and have multiple setups in your trust web, in your trust structure, into your trust stacking. So this whole thing of fundamental trust between the grantor and the trustee is everything, right? And it's God putting you in the position of trustee, right? It's the Christ within granting it over to you, and however you write that down and express it, it's more important in how you know it and how you live it versus what it says on a piece of paper. Okay.
Right.
Now, you can never hold all three positions. So you can only hold the position of grantor and trustee, but you can't be the beneficiary. So the beneficiary can be humanity, can be, whatever it is you feel that is important to do that. So when you're selecting a trustee, whether that's yourself or someone else, you got to possess the technical skills to manage the assets, right? So if you wanted to put one of your children as a trustee, you wouldn't want to put somebody there who, is always late on their bills, right? Because the trust will also have bills, right? It's like, okay, we formed a trust. Well, all of a sudden we don't have any bills. Of course you have bills. The trust has expenses that they have to pay, right? At the trust property, they have lights, they have electricity, they have a fridge. All these things need to be filled up and kept going. So you have to possess the technical skills and then the moral character to be able to honor the grantor's wishes, right? So, and that goes with you selecting who's going to be your survivor trustee. So when you're showing up for this event, you're going to have these things ready, okay? The name of your trust. You're going to have a mailbox schedule, ready to go. We're going to have an address for you. And then you're going to have to think about who you want to be on your main trust as your survivor trustee, okay? And that's absolutely important. Hold on one second. I want to just mute this and give somebody here some instructions. Sorry, we got some people yelling outside, so I'm trying to calm it down. I didn't know if you could hear it or not, so my wife is handling that. So the foundation of the trust, it's the bedrock, really the bedrock upon which all the principles of trusteeship are built, right? Being the trustee is absolutely critical to how your trust is run. If you don't have a good trustee in place, if you're not a good trustee, if you don't know what that means, if you're missing schedules all the time, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're not being a good trustee. And trustees can be replaced, and they must be replaced if they're not fulfilling these duties. So again, this is all about the act of giving. Everything I do in trust is about giving, right? I'm freely transferring the possession outside of my own care into the trust, into the trustee. Okay. I'm not forced to do something like that. I'm giving it out of love. I'm giving it out of my own free will. And it's a complete and unconditional transfer of all your assets from the grantor to the trustee. Okay. And this is where a lot of people have a problem with it, because they still think it's my wife, my house, my car, my dog, my shit. And what you need to do is get that mind switch to where it's not mine. It's actually trust property. And then you start to, on traveling mailbox, just get a traveling mailbox wherever you want to have it collected. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's not a private mailbox, and it's called travelmailbox.com. Okay. Pick one of those private mailboxes, Mike, that will give you an address that you can keep for a long time. And they're an agent of the U.S. Post Office, and they're receiving mail for you, so you stay out of jurisdiction, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the trust is about giving, right? There's no expectation of return. There's a complete transfer of control, and it's based on stewardship, meaning being a good trustee, taking care of what God has given. Okay. And these are all exchange transactions, right? They're not sales. They're exchanges. They're assignments. They're, when I take property into the trust, can the trust buy property? Sure. But a lot of times when I transfer assets to the trust, they're exchanges. Okay. And maybe sometimes not even exchanges as assignments, right? So, you've got to really get out of that ownership, right? Where you were the owner and you exchange it. Okay. And you're giving it to the trust in that form. So it's conditional, but again, once it's in the trust, you're not going to be working it from that point of expectations. Okay. So that's something that you have to kind of get a mind flip switch on, that it's not mine. We're not doing these sales anymore. We're doing, assignments or transfers, and the transaction is going to be, final, and it's not something you're going to take back. Okay. So let's talk about, in some of my, let's say, illustrations here were done by AI. So you can see this AI experience compass about the power of intention. The plan is the definition, is the driving trust behind the trust creation. Okay. So in any of our documents, you can always put your own intention, and you should put your own intention into them. The ones you're going to leave with, your first one, are going to be very basic and raw. The second ones you create, and more ones you create, should be more encompassing. And, what your declaration is in the indenture or the declaration. And the declaration is really that first, declaration of trust. That's what it is. It's a declaration saying, I created the trust, or the grantor created this trust for this purpose. Here are the trustees. And here's what we're going to do. And here's what the scope of the trust activities are for. Some of them are created for business purposes. Some of them aren't. Okay. You're going to create the duration over when the trust is going to be alive from. Most of those are 21 years and then extended. And then the desired effect you want to have on beneficiaries and society, because it's all about humanity and what you're trying to do with what you have, right? So we're all here for a noble purpose. We're not here because we want to be scumbags. We're not here because, we just want our freedom. That's what drove us here, is our freedom. And we just want to live unencumbered by other people's ill wills upon us. And this allows us to, start to set up our own ethos for who we are and how we want to run our organization versus how Caesar runs his. Okay. So you've got the goals, you got the trust, you got the process, and you got the control. Okay. So those are all important things that you have to keep in mind when you're running a trust, and it all is centered around ethics, right? So they're all intent-driven interactions. You've got your direction of trust, which is, your explainability. You have to be able to say, hey, I created this trust for this reason. Okay. And then if somebody says, no, you didn't, you say, yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You got to be able to defend it. Okay. And then you got to have the process, which is your understanding of this, so much so that you can guide other trustees, right? If you don't know what you're doing, how are you going to tell the other trustees or survivor trustees, like your children and your family, what to do? And that's why I brought up the Thanksgiving, because this is the only subject that should be done in those days, is like trust business meeting, how we're going to handle, our trust and where we're moving to, how we're going to spend our time, our focus, and how we're going to make things better for everyone. And the first place you start is in your home, right? That's the church. The first place you start is in your home, which is the church. Okay. So, get that input from everybody who's a member of that and that wants to be a member of it. Trustees, they assume a huge level of responsibility. Okay. And it's 3 components: responsibility, accountability, and liability. Okay. Responsibility means you have the duty to manage trust assets. Now, not every trustee has the same responsibility, right? And you can add multiple trustees, as many as are willing. You can give them specific responsibilities, right? In Bo's case, sometimes you have certain responsibilities and you help out, and you're a trustee in some trusts that I have where you have very limited responsibilities. In some other trusts, they're very large responsibilities, and you carry on with the grantor's intention or the other trustee's intention of what the grantor, let's say, what the trustees interpret the intention of the grantor to be. Okay. So then you have the accountability. So all of your actions as a trustee, you got to be accountable for. You can't disappear when you screw up. Are you expected to be perfect? No, but you have to answer for your decisions. Hey, I screwed up. Or, hey, man, I did it because of this, and this is why. And you have to be transparent with all the beneficiaries, but especially with the other trustees, right? So then you have the liability aspect, right? So you got the financial liability, that you don't want any losses to incur or any negligence to occur or any breaches in your fiduciary duties. So you gotta be clear with that and have meetings of other trustees, right? We have financially based transactions that happen where we're using professionals inside and outside of the trust. We're always making different, let's say, decisions that we need to consult with, and we consult with other trustees. Is this the right, like, should we put our crypto over here? Should we put our finances over here? How should we do this? What's the best thing for the trust? We're constantly having those meetings. So you also have to get into, the public interest, right? Because we're not here only for ourselves. We're here for the benefit of the all. Intentionally, right? We've got the common interest of the welfare of society. That's why we're creating these trusts, because that's what God told us to do, right? That's what Genesis says, that we're supposed to be, working in this trust, taking dominion over it. And there's our personal, responsibility. We're not supposed to be investing in things that, somebody just invested in, I don't know who it was, but somebody had insider information in this Bitcoin crash that just happened. So are we supposed to be investing in things like that, even if we have insider information? Are we supposed to do things that's in the benefit of a few and not in the benefit of the all, even though it could benefit the trust? No, we're supposed to have ethics. And it's ideally supposed to be an alignment of the private interest and the public welfare, right? We're not supposed to get rich or have a more wealth in our trust because we take from others. That's not the whole way it goes. So, you know, our trust, we have to maximize profits at all costs, but we have to do it and we have to sustain the profit with, you know, social responsibility. It's not about doing it where it's all into one. It's where it's all for the benefit of all. And that's really when things start to kick off with your trust. When you adopt that mentality and go there, I can tell from my own personal experience that it really starts to take off into levels that you never thought possible. Okay. So we can go a little bit about fiduciary duties, right? And what that means. It's a legal obligation to act in the best interest of the beneficiaries, placing their interest above the trustee's own. This is the definition of what the trust is. Okay. You always have to act in the best interest of the fiduciary. Now, can you use that to your benefit as a trustee? Of course you can. You must. And when someone's trying to bully you from Caesar, is that in the best interest? So if Caesar's trying to bully the trustee, is that in the best interest of the beneficiary? Heck no, it never is. So you have to always remember that. And when you're investing, you have to invest trust assets as a prudent investor would. Okay. You got to consider the purpose. What are we investing in? Are we investing in alcohol companies so that we could like screw up society? What about like gas station drug companies? Can we make money selling gas station drugs? We can, but it's not advised. Right, Kat? Yeah. Because we got asked to do that. But no, we refuse more than we take because it's not in the benefit of everyone as a whole. And I wouldn't want that to happen to my kids or anybody else. So we got to think of them in the beneficiaries, but also in the whole society of how that will be. So it's our obligation to treat all beneficiaries fairly and not favor one over another unless explicitly allowed in the trust documents, right? So can you set things up where one kid gets more, right? What does it say in the Bible? The first son gets a triple portion. Okay. So can you do that? Sure, but you got to set it up in the documents and then the trustee has to act accordingly. Okay. So you also have a duty to inform an account. Okay. So the responsibility to provide the beneficiaries or other trustees information about the trust, its administration, and maintaining transparency. You got to give reports. If you're not giving reports and you're not being transparent about everything, if you're not sending invoices, if you're not saying, hey, this went to here or that went to there, I mean, you got to do that. Okay. You got to absolutely do that. This is not a license to go outside of the norm and do some really messed up stuff. Okay. So I don't know what slide number we're on here. Okay. That's 8, 9. Okay. So we're on slide number 8. We've got one more. So the basis of the trust web structures where we do trust stacking, we'll go through it more at the event. This is just a basic outline. We're going to go into how to do this into detail. And it's for your own protection. It's for your own family's protection. It's for the church's protection. It's for the protection of you as the creator. Okay. So you can keep creating, because guess what? It takes money to create sometimes, right? Like not everything, but a lot of things takes money. So if you want to create more, you need to have more. You need to control more, and you need to ethically run that more. And we need to be constantly mooring. So in understand for the wealth management, for the legacy planning, which means for future generations, for your sons, your daughters, just for yourself in the future. Okay. So you can keep on living. And the principles, they provide the foundation for creating trust. And they're not only legally sound, but they're also aligned with the values and the goals, right? We have trust, we have giving, we have intention, we have responsibility, we have public interest. I mean, a lot of people are always like, the trust, me, mine, I can just do this. I got the trust set up so I can do that. That's not what it's set up for. It's set up so you can do some greater good and act as the greater good, act as the I am, wear your God hat and be the creator. That's what this whole thing is for. So if that's what you want and that's what your intentions are, if you love your family, if you love God above all else, and you treat other people the way that they want to be treated and treat them as God, this is the place for you. This is the event for you, because this is going to teach you, a whole bunch. And only if you're trustworthy. That's why we don't have many slots. We don't know. Okay. Whoever believes they're trustworthy, we want to see you there. We want to help you. And we want to get you on your feet on the road to freedom and the road to prosperity and wealth. It starts with these trusts. So we'll see you there in Minnesota. If you can't make it to Minnesota and you want to do a trust event, send me a message. Hey, I want to do a trust event. If you can guarantee me 10 people are going to show up, we'll do another one in another city, okay, where you can be the host. As far as like bringing us in, we'll come in and speak to a private group of your choosing in any state of the United States. You just let us know. So if you can't be there, we'll do another one, but this is for everyone to, be in Minnesota, to, have this kickoff event. Bo, you're back. Yeah. So I finished going through a couple more of the slides, but that's a little taste of what we're going to be going through there. We're going to go through things a little deeper. I'm wanting to hold the questions until the third day. And that's really going to be my question and answer day. Will we nail everything 100% right? Nah, we won't. But we're going to do our best to provide you with so much information that you walk away from it and you can teach your whole family how to be a trustee. And then if you can't, you can come here, ask your questions, as you should be doing. Obviously, before you put a vehicle into a trust, before you put a house into a trust, let's all talk about it. You know what I mean? And let's see if the way you're doing things is the right way. Because sometimes it's better to, err on the side of caution, ask some people who have done it before. I've had vehicles in trust. I've had properties in trust. I still have properties in trust. I've done exchanges. I've done assignments. I do inter-trust contracts. I do all these things all the time. I appoint trustees. I have trustees, agreed. I do affidavits. I do all this stuff on a daily basis. My job, when they stop me in customs and say, what do you do? Say, I work for God. So what's your job? Trustee. Okay. That's who I am and what I do. Okay. Now I've written some books on, God and natural law. This is my book on trust. I know y'all are going to like it because it's really like, I feel it's the ultimate guide to, trust. I wouldn't call it practice. I would call it, what do you do after practice, Bo, when you have a real game? I would say the trust game. It's not a practice. It's professionally using trust, right? It's actually where you become a trust professional, and we finish practicing. So this event will be a little bit of the practice. By the time you leave, you're going to be a pro, and then staying in these masterminds and actually, again, nobody, like, I didn't learn trust only by reading books. I learned a lot by reading books, and I've read a lot of books. I've taken a lot of courses on trust. I have a PhD in trust, basically, in the amount of time and focus that I put on that. But most of what I learned was by doing, okay? So you can't learn only that way. You got to come and learn something. But then once you learn it, you got to do it. And that's when you become a professional trustee. And by the time y'all leave, you should be all professional trustees. So when anybody asks you what your number one job is, your number one job is trustee. And that's where you're going to leave this event super happy because you're going to be a completely different person.
Mm-hmm. 1 Corinthians chapter 4
on paper. It's
yeah
going to be real.
1 Corinthians chapter 4 explains it all. So 1 Corinthians chapter 4 1 and 2 says that in stewardship a man must be found faithful. Verse 20 says that this is not in a demonstration of word only, but in power. And so what that means is that similar to the, faith without corresponding actions or without works is dead. And so unless we put legs to it, unless we do something about it, that does nothing. Jesus told us to go ye into all the world, preach the gospel to every creature. Well, what's the gospel? That's the good news. What is the good news? That's the thing that puts us into a position of receiving the reality of what Christ died to give us and share with us and all of us. That's trust work. And once people recognize that, once they get that, and watch that video that Adam put up on the thing of David, he explains that. Number one is God. That's why we all have to have to sign a God trust. It's not like a suggestion. This isn't one of those things where like wishy-washy. Imagine the Matrix, and you have an agent in the room with you. Everybody needs to be under trust. And if you're not under trust, you're not trustworthy.
Under
if you're
contract
not trustworthy,
with God, you sign a covenant. Like who you working for? Who's your agreement with? Did you sign a deal with the devil or did you sign a deal with God? I signed a deal with God.
Absolutely. Yeah.
End of story.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And nobody can ever get me to say otherwise. And again, this is all about stepping into your power, because most of these things that are designed to take your attention or to draw you away from God, which is your power, right?
Right.
So it's not something somebody's just going to put a crown on your head and say, hey, you now have the power of trustee. Okay. It's something you have to take and you have to do and you have to know.
Right.
And that's what this is all about. So I hope everybody, this has been a little bit informational for you, a little bit explanational for you, and a little bit enlightening for you. So you all are ready to join us on the 14th through the 16th of November in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We don't have a hotel picked out. Stay at whatever hotel you want. We're going to be somewhere near the airport.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know.
We'll let you know. So it's in the works. It's happening. And we'd love to see you all there. But again, we're not going to see you all there. This isn't for everybody. This is only for the selected few. And if we have 2 people there, great. We have 2 people there. If we have 20 people there, great. We have 20 people there. But we're not going to we're selling 10 slots to anybody outside of the mastermind. I don't know how many people from the mastermind are going to attend. I'll be sending, the website is getting set up. Yep.
And for those of you wondering,
and just so you all know, I want to put this announcement, this notice out. There are no refunds, because if you take up a seat and you don't show up, it's taking somebody else's seat, because we have very limited seats there. Okay.
And you'll find out why there's no refunds, because you're going to learn the exact same thing on how this, how trust works. But here's, go ahead. You continue.
No, it's just, we're really not wanting this to get outside of our tight circle. A lot of people aren't ready for it. We don't want people going in and making bad choices and just saying, hey, we give you, like, a lot of times with a lot of stuff everybody learned in the past from everybody, you had just enough information to hang yourself. And this isn't something that we want to put you where you have just enough information to hang yourself. Right. We want you to guarantee to thrive. We want you to know enough so that when you get out into the world and you're operating as a trustee, you guys are going to be winning at what you're doing. You're going to be successful at what you're doing. And we don't want you guys to have any problems with it. And if you do have any problems with it, we want to be there for you. Okay. As trustees ourselves. So that's why we can't open it up to too many, because I just don't have the time to handle that much. And again,
not just the too many
doing this at all. Yeah. The reason I'm doing it is just because I had already prior committed to it way in the beginning. Everybody was asking for a live event. So I said, okay, we'll do it. It wasn't something I wanted to do. It's something that I agreed to, that I'm committed to do. And as a trustee, I said I was going to do, so we're going to do it. So it's just me keeping my word to everybody that I said we're going to do it. so I want everybody to come prepared, be ready, and put your thinking caps on, ask a lot of the hard questions, help us help you become that trustee that you need to be. And then, you'll be able to go and teach it to others. That's the whole purpose of this. This isn't just so I can sit in front of a room of 100, 200
That's
people.
right.
Yeah, we can do an event with 100 or 200 people and charge $100 and fill it up. No problem. Could do that tomorrow. But we don't want that of just people mindlessly taking 2 pages of a trust document, filing it, using it, and then not know what the hell they're doing with it and get themselves in trouble. That's not who I want to be working with. That's not how I want to be doing this. So this is very clear. This is a commitment from everybody involved. We want you,
and who you are.
I mean, extremely seriously.
Yeah, when you hear this, when you hear Adam talking about this, you gravitate towards it, and that draw is pulling on you. Bible says no one comes unless the Father draws him in, and that's what's happening. The Father, Creator, is literally pulling on the heart, literally on your heartstrings, whatever you want to call it. He's pulling on that. You can feel that, and like Adam said, I mean, if it's, you could come up with something, and this isn't a charity. This isn't a charity thing. This is something, an investment that you have to make. But this is something that you have to decide for. This is something Adam told me. And, I scrounged. I got what I needed together, and I made it happen. And, here I am, and I'm benefiting. And so, there's still a lot to learn. Don't get me wrong. This is something that you're always going to be evolving in and growing in. And I'm saying that because you know who you are, and when you feel that draw, you'll make it happen. I know you will. And I can't wait to see you there, because when you see others who are trustworthy, it's like there's this they give off this frequency that you are so connected with, and it's wonderful. It really is. And so you'll know it.
You've been working with me for a while now, and I would say even more recently with our trust work and what we've been doing, you've enriched yourself by millions of dollars. It may not all be in your pocket yet, but you definitely on your way to really increasing your trust net worth by a lot, just because you put in the time.
I would say after this event, and when people start learning this is something that I didn't realize I was going to say, started learning all of this after meeting David and then you, and, going on from there, is I could give 2 squirts about the Cesta QV stuff, because here's the thing. All that would do is spoil me and my children. And I don't want that. I want to educate my children, surrounded around a church and how it's supposed to operate, where 2 or more are gathered, there I am in the midst of you, and operate as a ministry moving forward, going to spread that message. And that's the kind of message that teaches others how to fish, and not just have to, please, government, Rome, feed me this mysterious money that I just want, suckling on the teats of Rome. The reality is that we are
the manna of God,
Exactly. And so we are creating what we need when we need it, because even Jesus said, hey, look at the lilies of the valley, look at the birds in the air. They neither toil nor spin, and they don't have to work for their food, but God provides it for them. And trust me, the provision is already here. It's not on its way. It's already here. All we have to do is activate it by doing something about it. And that's where we put legs to our faith.
If you don't have any of it set up, if you don't know how to be a trustee for God,
Absolutely.
Good luck getting more from God, right? Good luck getting more when you don't know what to do with it. It's like a guy who wins the lottery. If you look at the majority of NFL players, the majority of lottery winners, just like you said with the Cesta QV Trust winner, most people don't know what to do with it, and they're broke within a year or 2. And not only are they broke, they're worse off when they started.
Well, and they don't know what to do with it because they stop learning.
Yeah.
They stop bettering themselves. They better everything around them except for themselves. And then when you do that, when you better everything around you and not you, you don't know how to maintain it when things go wrong. And then you just have to find somebody else to maintain something that you can't maintain. And then you start to deteriorate on a soul level. and then you just give up. And that's where it gets hard for people. And it seems like all this work that led up to it, boom, now I am sitting on a cash full of gold and I can retire. Well, you lost. The moment you make that choice, that is what you end up doing, is retiring after all this hard work and not pushing forward and helping somebody else.
You know, Bo, my wife said to me the other day, I'm like, man, I'm doing trust work from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I need a day out. She's like, Adam, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, seriously? She's like, yes, you don't have a choice. She's like this event that come on, Adam, you're in this for the rest of your life. And I'm like, oh man, she's laughing over here because she said it to me, you know, and she's like, I know you and I know how this is. So just know that like this trustee stuff isn't just like, you know, a 1 day or 3 day event. This is your kickoff. Like this is where it starts.
Absolutely.
This isn't where it finishes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and then to think it's ever going to finish, not until your dying day. And, you know, the goal is to keep on living, you know, like the goal isn't to die. Right. I mean, that's what the scripture also says. So, you know, stay alive, stay as a good trustee and, you know, we'd love to see you all there, and we'd love to, let's say, have you become everything God meant you to become, because that's what this is all about. It's about becoming that trustee. It's not going to church and giving $5 to the church. It's about going to the church, pulling $5 from underneath the seat, and then going out in the world and doing something good with the $5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we want to make sure that everybody's committed. We want to get the right level of people in. And we want to get the right creative people who already have demonstrated that they are creative. So, you know, the price, whatever, it doesn't matter. The price is just the price. If you fundamentally can't pay it for whatever reason, you know, message us, and, you know, you probably have some old gold or some old silver or something else that we can make, you know, as an exchange to the trust, for your admission. And if you feel that it's a mission that God called you for, by all means, make an offer. Right now we have to express it in, you know, Federal Reserve notes or whatever. We can take, you know, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, XRP, whatever, you know what I mean? So if it doesn't fit in alignment with whatever you have or you're working with right now, just send over a private message, send over an email, and we can work something out. So, you know, we're not like stuck in something, but we do have to, you know, put a price on it because it is valuable, and that will be on the website, and you'll get that website in the next couple of days once everything's set up and finalized, so you can reserve your ticket and get one before they're gone. So love you all. Have a great rest of the week, and stay safe, stay in trust, and remember, trust, giving, intention, responsibility, and public interest, right? For the benefit of all. So keep it going. And we want to just build upon that. And we'll see you in next week, but we'll also see you in person in November. We can't wait.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.